That just happened. What's up, everybody? My name is Matt. I'm a professional trumpet player, if you don't know me already. And I just had the privilege of meeting the great Jacob Collier. My mind is just blown in every direction. Holy shit. So today I'm just going to react and commentate to the workshop he gave. I'm only going to put little bits and pieces up because it's probably not a good idea and a cool thing to put the whole thing up. And I'm going to give some of my own insights and thoughts about what he talks about and how it relates to my personal career and my YouTube channel. And speaking of YouTube channels, if you're new here, make sure you hit that big red subscribe button, ring that bell so you don't miss any new videos. I'm creating a new video every single day this month, so don't miss out on that. And of course, all those great YouTube algorithm stuff. Like, comment, subscribe, share the video, and let's just get right into it. So, if you don't know who Jacob Collier is a freak of nature. He's a multi-instrumentalist. He has perfect pitch. He composes, arranges. He's a brilliant audio producer. He edits videos. So with all these skills, Jacob pretty much does everything I do, but not to put myself down, but like 1,000 times better. He's incredible. I really look up to him. He's one of my heroes, and I'm so pumped that I got to meet him. And he's also just a freaking genius. Like, his intellect compares to Mozart, which was considered the genius prodigy musician of his time. So he's pretty much Mozart if Mozart played jazz. All right, without any further ado, let's just get into it.
And we are here with the incredible Jacob Collier. And Jacob, would you like to take it away?
Yo everybody, how you doing? Yay, good to see you. Fantastic. Can everybody see and hear me okay? If so, give me a thumbs up.
I was so excited when I first saw him when we first powered up. Oh my gosh.
So, welcome to my room. I can actually show you my room from above. It's here. Hey. So this is my childhood music room for when I was very, very, very little indeed. And
see all sides of my room.
Actually,
That'd be so cool.
And we also want to extend congratulations for your Grammy Award nomination.
Right, because he's a Grammy winner, and he was nominated for a bunch more this year. Best Album of the Year, Best R&B. Like, yeah, he's the man.
I was just not expecting it at all, and so it was a bit of a shock, and I haven't quite surfaced from it yet. But it's a profound honour. And quite hilarious to me as well, because I'm quite unconventional, and so I look at the other people in the category and I think, wow, you guys are the sort of monsters of pop. But I think it's wonderful in many ways. It's just funny to actually be Jacob in it, you know.
How has the current atmosphere affected your creative process?
Well, a great deal in many ways, and also it's exactly the same in other ways. And it's a funny thing to make music alone for so many years, and then to find yourself in a pandemic and sort of planted and primed, ready to create. But I created so much alone when I was growing up, you know, all the way from since I was about 7 years old when I got Cubase, and I got Logic when I was 11.
You started producing when you were 7 years old. Holy crap. I was learning, like, how to add and subtract and multiply when I was 7 years old. Like, that's insane. Holy crap. I'm jealous of prodigies. That's just not fair.
And I've been recording basically in this exact chair since then. And I made an album called In My Room, which I made basically in this room. Well, I did make it in this room. And I did it on my own, and I mixed it myself, and I wrote the songs and arranged it all, and played all of the instruments and stuff like that. And then I went on a 2.5-year one-man show tour.
Yeah, Jacob and I, I'm kind of, what I'm doing with my YouTube channel now is very similar to how Jacob started his career. He started writing his own arrangements and compositions, then he performed them all himself, then he mixed the audio all himself and did the video all himself. So we have some things in common in that aspect, and he threw them all up on YouTube like I'm doing, except he's like 1,000 times better at it and way ahead of me because he started way earlier in his life. I think it's kind of really, and I'm not saying I'm Jacob Collier. I'm nowhere near as amazing as he is, but it feels cool to have some like personal connections with people who you look up to.
Really good fun, and it was a massive learning curve for me because I was quite an introvert, and I had such a vivid inner world.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Like, he's an introvert. As you can probably tell by the way I talk, that I'm not the most social person. Um, and the fact that I like to do things on my own is another clue at that. So another thing we have in common.
Well, I was kind of flabbergasted, but I was also a bit relieved because it's just unbelievably, unspeakably rare for me to be gifted time. Time is like my most precious currency of all, more precious than anything else. It's just time. So,
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Time is like extremely crucial. Um, and you don't really start to appreciate time when you're a student, like high school, college, because when you're a student, you have unlimited time. Well, not unlimited, but almost unlimited. Like you can practice 4 or 5, 6, 7 hours a day and still have time to have a social life and still have time to, do all your schoolwork properly and time for all these different things. But in the adult world, like every minute matters. Um, Even practicing can be hard sometimes. Just finding the time to practice because you have so much other responsibilities. Like in the adult world, you have to cook for yourself. You have to take care of your own bills, your own adult boring legal stuff. If you have kids, that takes away so much time for personal things. Just takes away an extreme amount of time if you have kids, which I don't, thankfully. But yeah. So time, I would, to an artist, especially to a creative, is extremely, extremely valuable. And I'm not glad the pandemic happened. Oh, well, let me rephrase that. I mean, I hope another pandemic doesn't happen for the sake of humanity, for everyone's health and safety. But the pandemic gifted all of us so much time, and I had so much time to hone my skills and take on these creative, crazy projects. And I'm really thankful that I had that amount of time. And I'm thankful that I used it well and that I didn't just slack off and watch Netflix all day. So I agree with Jacob on this.
you never get there, do you? And you're never going to be ready, as ready as you think you need to be to start. Um, I'm sure I'm not alone here, but when I was growing up, I always thought, well, I'm not. One day I'm going to be ready to have a career, but I'm not ready yet.
Yeah, yeah. I really connected with that this year, especially when I started my YouTube channel. Because like I was really new to audio producing. I haven't edited videos since high school. Um, that I felt like I wasn't ready, and while I was first getting started, I was just looking at like advice for new people to the platform for like new creators. And my biggest takeaway from what I read is that just start and learn as you go. And just acknowledge that your first few videos or first few projects or whatever are not going to be that great compared to what you're going to make in the future. But the only way you're going to get experience and grow is just by doing it and keep working at it and keep learning from your mistakes. Because if I never put out content, never gave it a shot, I wouldn't have got that experience and I would have never improved. And my videos would never be the way they are today. So I 100% agree with this.
But normally, it's assumed that the producer is in charge rather than the artist, which to me is completely absurd, if I'm being honest. So weird, because I can't imagine saying or trying to communicate to a producer just the amount of detail or feeling I want to create. And so, in terms of my own personal journey, I tend to do everything myself. And it's exhausting, but it's fun because it means you have to learn how to wear these different hats. So there's the Jacob that steps on stage, and there's the Jacob that plays the instruments, and there's the Jacob that mixes, and there's the Jacob that edits the videos, and there's the Jacob who
Yeah, that's kind of one of my problems too with working with other people is that there's a specific vision in my head that I have when I have ideas and musical thoughts, but it's hard for me to um, get that exact message to another person. Um, because even if I say exactly what I want, they're not gonna have that same exact vision just because it's someone else, someone who thinks differently. We're all different. We all have different consciousness. That's why I think I work the best on my own and I can create exactly what my vision is because I know the vision in my head and I know exactly what I want it to be. So that's why I feel like I need to do everything myself. But yeah, I really relate to what Jacob is saying here, that you kind of have to take the responsibility for your own vision, your own ideas, and recognize how important it is to you and that you take control over them.
And I was wondering how you decide for those sounds when to use your voice, when to use physical instruments, when to use digitally created sounds to make these different sounds within your music.
Great question. So some people often ask me like, hey, bro, how do you come up with your own sound as a musician? Like, this is the kind of thing that people like to feel they have as their own sound, right? My kind of solution to that, or one of my solutions to that, is to sing, to use my voice. And it's not that I'm like the best singer in the world or anything, but only I can sing.
Oh, come on, Jacob. You're like phenomenal. It's like one of the things he's known for. I mean, he's a multi instrumentalist. He plays a lot of instruments, but like his singing is like what he's known for. I would say that's his primary. But just kind of like how I said before, I don't think I'm the best trumpet player in the world. Um, but it's still me. You know what I mean? It's still my own sound. It's still my own voice. So I see what he's saying here.
Only I can sing like me, because I've got my voice. I'm the only one with my voice. So there's inherent value in using your voice whenever you can. And I think that I find that a relief to realize.
And he's asking, how do you utilize microtones as well as microtonal keys to further add color and deeper meanings to your musical progressions?
Good question. So, 500 years ago, let me tell you a story. 500 years ago, someone said 12 notes is correct now. We have 12 notes. And everyone said, okay. And one of the reasons was because the church didn't want to pay for musical instruments that could play in all 12 keys equally, because it would have been ridiculously expensive to do so. Because basically the way that the way that instruments were built before equal temperament came along, and when I say equal temperament, I mean this idea that all the keys on the keyboard are kind of the same distance apart. You've got semitones everywhere, or half steps. You guys might say half steps. So that's a half step. That's half step. They're kind of equivalent distances, and so humans love to do this. They'd like to take things that are natural and they chop them up and put them in organized boxes where everything's the same size and it's all in a big grid and everyone's happy and it's easy to understand and easy to pay for. Unfortunately, physics is not the same as equal temperament, or C major, which is E. Right now, equal temperament has put this E a bit sharper than it is within just intonation. In fact, it's 1400ths of a semitone sharp. So the actual E sounds like this. See, that's like not in tune. This is really sharp. But see how there's like a buzz? Almost like, oh, that is so unified. Profound. So it's a completely different sound from the natural one. This is just intonation. This is normal. It's harder to hear this one than the major. It's sharper. Now, just to blow your mind a little bit, I'm going to show you what happens when we play a chord of C7. See that B flat there? I'm going to pivot from that chord to a chord of G minor. And as you all know, from what I just said, the third of G minor is B flat. And the seventh of C is B flat. So when I play a G minor chord in just intonation, the B flat is going to be 16 cents sharp. But when I play the same B flat as part of C7, it's going to be 31 cents flat. And just check this out. Can you hear that? Weird. And I would go so far as to say that when people are in school, they come into school with these weird minds, and then the school, like what education does, is it likes to just quantize everyone, so that everyone is like printed out of education in these like beautiful, controllable, organized rows. And I know that sounds quite dramatic, but I actually think it's quite true, because people are way easier to control and to understand, and they're way less intimidating when they're not being really creative and when they're not being themselves and when they're not unleashing their full potential. So, I don't want to make this too big, but really you should be yourself, and there'll be so many people that maybe don't understand how vast that is, but it's so vast.
Really deep. How it's really like existential, like some like George Orwell stuff, or like we're all meant to be a certain way, and it's comparing that to music, where like equal temperament, all pitches are in a perfectly equal stack, and rhythm, it's all perfectly quantized, but it takes away the life, it takes away the humanity from if everything's just all perfectly put the way you're told to put it. And he's saying you got to be more creative, and you're not going to reach your full potential if you fall into the system. I mean, the rules are there for a reason. They make sense, but if you are too exact and perfectly quantized, and it takes away the life and the soul to the music.
On Jesse Volume 3, a lot of the songs are in different places, different A equals different numbers, basically. So, sometimes it's a little bit flat, sometimes it's a bit sharp, because I think that people have a really interesting response to those keys because they're not familiar with them. But my favorite thing to do, and I really haven't scratched the surface yet, but is to get into this modulation, this what I call cross-terrain modulation thing, of turning your ear from one plane to another and back again.
But this is something, if I ever want to ever explore this and use it, trumpet is really hard to do this with. It might not even be possible because the trumpet doesn't have perfect resonance. The trumpet doesn't have perfect resonant polychromaticism, which means it only plays semitones perfectly resonant. If I were to play quarter tones or in between, it would distort the pitch because I would have to bend and it wouldn't sound the same. It would take away the resonance. Like the human voice, what he's doing is perfect resonant polychromaticism. If I play trombone with a slide, they can move the slide to anywhere and play in between all the notes. So that's perfect resonant polychromaticism. I mean, maybe I could use the slides, but some notes, like the open notes, I can't really manipulate the pitch as well. So I don't think it's impossible to do on the trumpet, but definitely very difficult.
Now, and then there are small games you can play, like, you can divide notes into as many notes as you want. If you're arranging something, sometimes not chromatic is more fun than chromatic, like even finer. There's no reason, no one ever, like there's no reason why you can't do that. And I like to use this example, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And here we are on December the 8th, but like they, oops, turn this up. They never let poor Rudolph join in any reindeer games, right? So there's no reason why the alto part can't go. It's actually more satisfying than, or you'd have to repeat a note because there's 4. So it's fine. So just explore it and untether yourself from the idea that like in tune is one particular thing, and embrace the idea that actually tuning is vast, and you can really kind of, you can just enjoy, you can just unpack it, and in tune doesn't exist, and like equal temperament is a hoax and stuff.
But for your larger compositions, like Moon River, do you compose it all using notation, or does it go straight from your brain right into the recording?
Oh, sorry, I was trying to imitate your ringtone. I tend to improvise things. Like Moon River, for example, is a mixture. So with Moon River, I I kind of sketched out in MIDI first. I'm pretty bad with notation. I mean, like I can read music, but I'm just so slow, and I'm so out of practice. I'm not really out of practice would suggest I was once in practice, but I wasn't. I mean, I didn't learn music from reading it. I learned music from listening to it. Um, I can sort of write music pretty fast, and I can read it at about the same speed as I can write it, which is obviously like not particularly fast, like note by note.
We're opposites then, because I understood music through reading it and like physically seeing the notation. Um, and I'm pretty slow orally, so we're kind of opposites in this field.
Um, and so yeah, so I tend to play things in. I used to arrange all of my a cappella arrangements on Sibelius, and it was cool. It meant I got good at being resourceful with the amount of staves I had. 4 different electric piano tracks, all at different tunings, like gradually getting sharper. And I climbed because for the whole final minute of Moon River, it rises an entire half step, and you didn't notice, or maybe you did, but it's really really hard to hear it because it's all done with just intonation. It's like oh 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 oh, and it creeps up and up and up. It goes like rainbow's end, and it goes right up to the semitone above. It's really slow. Check it out. But I had these MIDI tracks, and I thought, can I get away with it? And this is when I realized I could. So like decorative, like I want it to be huge, and I sat here being like, it's gonna be massive. It's gonna be massive.
What blows my mind about this is that it's so complex, and like how he's talking about how he slowly modulates everything up a semitone, like little by little. How is this not like planned? And he says he improvises most of everything, and it all just comes to him. Like, what kind of genius does it take to wing a masterpiece like Moon River, which was a arrangement which he's really really known for? I think it won a Grammy. To just completely, it just came to him and he improvised it on the spot. Is oh my god, Jacob! Holy crap!
I mean, I recorded and arranged it and mixed it and everything within a week.
He wrote Moon River in just 1 week. That whole elaborate masterpiece, 1 week. Recorded, arranged, and mixed. Well, I feel bad about myself. Time to quit music. But oh my god, it's remarkable. It's impressive, and just the amount of detail he was talking about with like adding all the crossfades, getting rid of all the pops, sketching it out in MIDI, which was almost completely improvised. He said, and then recording everything, starting with the bass and adding everything else, and all that elaborate attention to detail, and he got it done in a week. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm speechless. Let's keep going.
And some of us weeping when you're playing the Moon River demo, so that was super cool, and we really appreciate you giving us all that info.
Oh, awesome. You're most welcome.
Yeah, and so we have our eye on the time because we've been having so much fun and time has been absolutely flying by. So I'm hoping maybe we can close with one question and perhaps you might send us off with a song or something.
I'd love to. Absolutely. That sounds great.
Awesome. Thank you. So this question is a little bit open-ended, so take it however you want. What is the best piece of advice you've ever gotten?
That's a difficult question. I guess one thing I'd say is don't. I mean, I've kind of said it already, but I think don't wait for things to be possible before doing them, because things become possible when you start doing them. And somebody said that to me at some point, and it stuck with me so much, because I think it was like I stopped waiting and I just started doing, and that was just like a really important moment for me.
Yeah, don't wait for things to be possible before you start doing them. This is kind of tying into how I talked about when I started my channel, to just start and stop waiting, because if you do the impossible, it's possible because you're doing it. I mean, my channel isn't completely original. There's a lot of people like Jacob, for example, who started doing it way before I did. Sure, there's a lot of other people you can think of too, but it's just this whole idea of waiting because you don't think you're ready or you don't think you can do it. Just start doing it. Just start, not even it, but just start doing, because once you start doing something, it's possible because you're doing it. And if what you're doing was what you eventually end up doing is what you thought was impossible, you're doing the impossible because you're doing it. Very, very deep philosophical things here.
And another piece of advice would be that you can't choose who you move. And for me, that's like such a relief. It's like, oh, okay, then outside my control. Yeah, I guess I'll just be me. It's a bit like saying like you can't choose who you fall in love with or who falls in love with you. You actually can't. All you can really be is just exactly who you are.
That's something that took me a really long time to figure out, because I was always trying to, I mean, musicians are naturally people pleasers. We're trying to appeal to a certain audience just through usually what genre we decide to play, or what pieces or songs we choose to do. We're trying to please a certain demographic of people. But even within that demographic, not everyone's going to like your stuff. There's going to be people who love your music, but there's always going to be people who don't like it. And that's fine. Everyone has their personal preference. Like, we're all attracted to different genres. There's maybe some genres of music we despise or just don't like. But in the trumpet world, we kind of put ourselves into two categories. It's classical jazz, and there's no in between. I mean, that there is, but we don't. It's hard to recognize that because we divide ourselves up into, I'm a classical trumpet player, I'm a jazz trumpet player, and then there might be that gray area in between is commercial playing. But yeah, and if I told Matt 5 years ago that I was eventually going to start covering pop music on YouTube, I would have hated that idea, because I was rock solid and I'm a classical player. But there's an audience for that. There's hundreds of thousands of people who want to hear this, according to channels of people who similar to me. So yeah, there's going to be people who love your stuff, there's going to be people who hate your stuff, and the best thing to do is just be yourself, and then the people who like you will naturally come to you. And if people don't like your stuff, that's okay. They'll just find someone else who they like, and everyone's happy.
Let me take a ride. And they say, why? Tell them that it's human nature. Why? Does it do me that way? Why? Tell them that it's human nature. Why? Does he do me that way?
All right, so that was my experience with Jacob Collier. Oh my God, I'm so happy. Should I show more of this? Leave a comment. Let me know if you'd like to see more videos like this. What do you think of this video? If you could meet the great Jacob Collier and ask him any question you want, what would you ask him? Leave a comment. I had something I wanted to ask him, but unfortunately we ran out of time. So maybe if this video gets 100 likes, I'll let you know what that is. And once again, make sure you like this video, subscribe, leave a comment. Thank you to my Patreon donors for making these videos possible. And I'll see you all next time.